At first glance, the community of KURUWITU appears to be like any other village along the Kenyan coast. However, the KURUWITU community has achieved something quite extraordinary. Their innovative response to challenges to their marine environment has been so successful, it has become a model for other Kenyan coastal communities across the region and has brought them international interest and acclaim. Visitors from all over the world have come to KURUWITU to see how this humble fishing community have transformed the marine environment they so depend on and implemented strategies that will have a positive impact for future generations. Around 4,000 families live at KURUWITU, about 30,000 people, mostly from the Mijikenda tribe. This community has relied on the ocean for their livelihoods for centuries. The area they fish stretches along 12 kilometers of coastline and has 6 landing sites and 3 villages. The community are mostly fishermen, fishmongers, and other small business owners. Some fishermen go out in traditional boats called ngalawas, or small canoes made from mango trees. Others go spearfishing, free diving down to the ocean floor to lie in wait. It is difficult work catching one fish at a time. The older men, their spearfishing days behind them, must catch what they can in the shallow waters of the lagoon. Fishermen in the area began to complain of low catches, and it was clear that something needed to be done. The ocean they had relied on for generations was almost entirely fished out. Trying to feed their families, the fishermen resorted to increasingly desperate and unsustainable fishing methods. As the fish got smaller, so did the nets. The fishermen had to use more risky methods while catching smaller and smaller fish. As KURUWITU fisherfolk were struggling with lower catches, the problem was made worse when unregulated and illegal ring netting crews appeared. Ring netters drag heavy nets along the bottom of the ocean, catching and destroying everything in their path. This leads to lower catches and smaller fish as the breeding populations are wiped out. Other types of nets are also devastating for turtles, who get trapped and drown. Increased international demand for exotic tropical aquarium species led to unregulated fishing in lagoon and reef areas by outsiders. This specific targeting of popular wild fish species and the removal of coral devastated the biodiversity in the marine ecosystem. 30% of an estimated 24 million fish traded annually for domestic tropical aquariums die en route between the reef and the fish tanks in people's homes. The public are unaware that buying these fish has a devastating impact on the environment and hence the communities in areas from where they are taken.
I used to fish this small aquarium fish some 10 years ago, but now I have realized that aquarium fishing is the one which has brought our beach area to be dry completely.
Aquarium fishermen opportunistically catch whatever else they see while hunting for aquarium species. The collection of shells and other marine animals for the tourist trade puts additional pressure on the biodiversity of the reef by taking out specific species. Scientists who had been researching the KURUWITU area for many years began to see the worrying decline caused by these problems in their data.
We have almost about 10 years of continuous water temperature. It shows very clearly just after the strong monsoons, the variation is going along like this and then suddenly it starts going up like this.
Coral in the area was dramatically affected by rising sea temperatures caused by global warming. All of these different factors combined to put immense stress on the KURUWITU lagoon. The balance of fish species was upset, leading to a plague of sea urchins. Urchins began to take over the lagoons when their natural predators, like triggerfish, were overfished and depleted. Like many other once plentiful marine areas in Kenya, by the year 2000, the KURUWITU lagoon had become a marine desert. In 2003, Dickson Juma and Des Bowden gathered together a group of concerned fisherfolk to discuss these problems and what could be done. As a result of this meeting and the many others that followed, the KURUWITU Conservation and Welfare Association, also known as KCWA, was formed.
They have to define the geographical area.
The newly formed KCWA worked with key marine stakeholders to develop a comprehensive management plan to chart the way forward. In 2006, the community took the unprecedented step of closing off a 30 hectares area of the lagoon. This became a vital breeding ground, an area where fish were left alone. This became Kenya's first ever locally managed marine area.
Ilikuwa ngumu kuanzisha hii elimu kwa sababu hili wazo lilipotujia ni wazo geni. Kwa hivyo hata kuelezana kulikuwa pia kuna kama changamoto na pia jinsi ya kuanzisha. Kwa hivyo ilikuwa ngumu lakini tulipatana.
Coming together as a community to make such an important decision creates a foundation which in itself ensures future sustainability.
The KURUWITU LMMA is at the heart of the KURUWITU initiative and a major step forward in the area's recovery. Knowledge of the marine ecology and biology around LMMAs help fishing communities understand how they work. Most marine species produce larvae that drift with the current. This means a protected zone on one reef can have positive effects on neighboring reefs. It is also important to let juveniles grow into adults so they have a chance to spawn before they are fished. Older, larger marine fish produce many more eggs. Therefore, it is important not to fish them so they can keep reproducing.
LMMAs are a completely different approach. They're bottom-up, community-driven. I think they're a crucial other tool for conservation and sustainable management of marine resources.
The population of the fishermen around this area is too high. That's why we decide to conserve one landing site and the rest of the landing site to leave it free so that we can fish and get our daily bread.
Without these refuges, without these islands of recovery and biodiversity, our oceans will continue to be depleted. MPAs provide an insurance policy to safeguard the biodiversity and the livelihoods that depend on it.
10 years ago, there was nothing here completely. But for the few years of conserving, surely we have seen so many things coming back again.
Within a year, there were signs that life, both inside and outside the marine protected area, was starting to recover.
Tengefu yasaidia wavuvi wote kwa sababu samaki wako wakubwa pale ndani, maji yakija mengi, kuna wengine wakienda kando kando, mvuvi naye yuwapata pia riski yake.
With the help of other stakeholders, like East African Wildlife Society, proposals were made to the donor community and funds were awarded to support the KURUWITU community's objectives. While reducing pressure on fish stocks was an important part of the KCWA management plan, alternative livelihoods to fishing were needed to reduce the total dependence on fragile and seasonal marine resources. Boats were built and fishing equipment was bought to enable fishing outside the lagoon area where fish were bigger and more plentiful. Local and international visitors hearing about the amazing regeneration of fish at KURUWITU began to visit the area to see for themselves.
When a big fish sees the shadow of the boat,
Guides were trained and employed to take visitors on amazing snorkeling experience in the marine protected area. The community saw that they could generate more from showing the fish to visitors than from catching them.
Something unique about KURUWITU is the biodiversity of corals are surrounded by tidal pools. It being shallow and having sandy patches all over the place, it actually allows you to find your footing. So KURUWITU allows inexperienced snorkelers to actually discuss their marine tour with their guide through the excursion.
People from the local community were trained and employed to act as scouts to safeguard the marine protected area. Where before these fishermen would go out to catch fish, they now work for the KURUWITU community, patrolling the area to conserve them. Other land-based income streams were sought, with the KCWA spearheading some small business startups too.
Tunatengeneza hizi furnitures kutokana na daus na train vijana. Ni kazi yenye ina future, maana tunaanza na vijana na tunaendelea na itakuwa tunasaidia.
A recycling business and complementary school education program has begun making money from plastics washed up on the shore. A sustainable fish business was set up, selling locally and to markets in Nairobi where fishermen could get a much higher price for their catch. A volunteer program with students coming from both local and international schools and universities brings in much-needed funds and is a source of employment. Volunteers go home inspired by their time working as part of the community at KURUWITU. The community have recently started a permaculture project to supply vegetables to local hotels and also to teach the community techniques for better land use. The funds generated from these various projects go back into the KCWA to benefit the local community through other welfare projects it supports. A KURUWITU women's group has set up their own enterprise with financial help from the KCWA.
Ninasikia furaha kaiza conservation, nasikia furaha sana kwa sababu ya gago maendeleo. Tunashukuru sana kwa maendeleo kama haya.
We have started a SACCO system, that is savings and credit cooperative. The target is to make the members have access to credit and loans. We have started programs in schools to plant the seed of conservation in the young age so that when they grow up, they have that theology in them even before they reach adulthood.
When KURUWITU finally became established in 2006, we certainly at Cordio thought this is a great example. We can take other fishing communities to KURUWITU to see it and encourage them to think about having one of their own. Since 2006, there are now 19 on the Kenyan coast, which is really very exciting.
Other communities began to visit KURUWITU to find out if they could emulate the KCWA model and use similar strategies and tools in their areas. Affected by similar challenges, other marine communities are impressed and inspired by what the KURUWITU community has accomplished.
One significant trigger for community members is to visit a well-established LMMA to see it for themselves. And most importantly, this enables them to directly talk with fishermen and women who are managing that area.
The KCWA model supports, inspires, and teaches other coastal communities the benefits of sustainable fisheries.
Groups like Oceans Alive that work to bring these communities together play an incredibly important role in civil society, in raising awareness of the rights of coastal communities to self-determination. Isolated examples of good practice and success start to grow and become a movement. And ultimately that movement can itself inspire change that was unimaginable before these communities joined up.
The government recognized and responded to the LMMA movement at the coast, spearheaded by KURUWITU, by allocating specific areas to the various coastal communities to manage their marine resources through beach management units, or BMUs. The movement towards BMUs in Kenya gives the local communities the opportunity to manage their own resources.
There is a lot of support from the residents that we are actually getting. They are contributing. We all together have a common goal of conserving and seeing a way of how we can improve our ecosystem within our area.
Being the first location to come up with this project, I feel very much proud to have a very successful project in this country.
One of the most significant developments in the KCWA's history is the establishment of one of the first co-managed areas in the region. The KURUWITU co-managed area is an area of coastline 12 kilometers in length and extends 13 kilometers out to sea, equivalent to about 100 square kilometers, an area the size of 15,000 football fields. The area has been researched and divided into zones that get the most out of the natural resources in a sustainable way. Within the co-managed area, diversified activities will both conserve the marine biodiversity and find ways to create alternative income streams. Another key feature is the protection of the turtle nesting sites within the larger area. In the year 2016, over 120 turtle nests were recorded and protected. With time, and if allowed to develop, the activities within the co-managed area will benefit the community and the environment in a significant way. In the year 2017, the KCWA won one of the world's most coveted conservation awards, the United Nations Development Programme's Equator Prize.
This winner has pioneered a small but beautiful approach to sustainable fisheries and small-scale businesses that has become a nationwide model. Please welcome the KURUWITU Conservation and Welfare Association.
The Equator Prize, presented in New York, recognizes outstanding community efforts to reduce poverty through the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity.
The inspiration of KCWA has made us to revision our environment, our community, and our future.
Maisha ya bahari mbele yatakuwa mazuri wakati binadamu anapojielewa, kwa sababu aliyesababisha hiyo shida ni huyo binadamu. Lakini kwa sasa ambapo binadamu ameshaelewa ya kwamba yeye ndiye mharibifu, maisha baadaye yatakuwa mazuri.